A very good afternoon, dear students. I hope you all are safe at your place. I, Professor Sonal Agrawal, welcome you all on the digital platform of Agrawal Vidya Vihar English Medium College. This is the lecture for the subject Banking Law and Practice Paper 2. As you all know that in the last lecture we have completed the unit number 4, that is the bank guarantee. This is the lecture for the complete revision of this unit. Here, if you have missed out some of the lectures, so this is, you can say, just a compensate lecture for you, that you can join that topic also that you missed out. But we are going to discuss the topics in very fast. So just it is just a revision that you can come to know that what we did in the lecture in that unit. So starting with the meaning of the bank guarantee, that first one is the meaning is given according to the section number 126 of the Indian Contracts Act, that guarantee is a promise which is given by third party. Clear? Here the contract, here it is a promise, or you can say it is a contract to perform the promise or discharge the liability of the third person who is the customer of the bank in case of default. So here the promise which is given by the third party to the banker, that the third person is liable for the payment of any amount which is in default in case of the main customer, the principal debtor, is not able to pay the amount. There are three parties in the guarantee. First party is the creditor, who is the banker. Second is the principal debtor, who is the customer of the bank. And the third is the guarantor or the surety, the person who is the third party and who has given the promise in behalf of the principal debtor. Then we discuss about the basic types of the guarantee, that the guarantee is bifurcated into the two categories. That first one is the specific guarantee and the second one is the continuing guarantee. Specific guarantee, this bifurcation is based on the number of transactions. Here transaction of what? Here transaction of the loan. Here how many times the customer has taken a loan. So here specific guarantee is given for a single transaction, or you can say for a single loan, and the continued guarantee is given for a number of transactions. Means here if the person has taken more than one loan, so it is a continued guarantee for a particular time period and for a particular amount. Suppose for 1 year up to the amount of 5 lakh rupees, the third person is liable to pay the amount. So here it is continued till 1 year and it is continued till the 5 lakh rupees. Clear? So this types of guarantee is known as a continuing guarantee. Suppose a customer has taken a first loan of 2 lakh rupees, a second loan of 3 lakh rupees. So the third party is liable for this both of the loans. Why? Because 2 lakh plus 3 lakh, the total amount is 5 lakh, which is not more than the amount of guarantee which is given by the guarantor, that is a 5 lakh rupees. So it is not more than 5 lakh rupees. And the time period, maximum time period is given by the third person is the 1 year period. So this types of guarantee is continued till the 1 year up to the amount of 5 lakh rupees. So it is for a more than one number of transaction, or you can say more than one number of loan. So then we discuss about the rights of the guarantor, that the third person who has given the guarantee, so the third person is also having some of the rights, and according to the examination point of view, this question is IMP. Clear? For this unit, from this unit, two main IMP questions are there. First one is about the rights of the surety, and the second one is about the end of the guarantee. So we are going to discuss these topics in detail, and more other topics we are going to revise very fastly. First one is the right to revoke the continued guarantee. If the person is given the continued guarantee, so in the person, in case of the person don't want to continue the guarantee, the third party don't want to continue guarantee, so the third party can revoke the guarantee in any case, but the condition is that the person has to given the written notice to the banker, and the person, the third party, can revoke the guarantee for the future loans. The person cannot be revoked the guarantee for any past loan. The second is about the rights of subrogation, that after paying the amount of the default to the banker, now the guarantor becomes the creditor of the principal debtor. Now the principal debtor is liable to pay the amount of the loan with interest to the guarantor. Why? Because the guarantor has given the amount to the banker in behalf of him. So the before this, the banker is the creditor, but after paying the amount, the guarantor becomes the creditor of the principal debtor. So this types of right is known as the right of subrogation. So right of subrogation is you can say it is the right to step into the shoes of some other person. Then next is the right to claim the indemnity. Of course, yes, if any expenses paid by the guarantor, like you can say the charges, if any installment is paid by the guarantor in behalf of the principal debtor, so the guarantor is having the right to collect, or you can say to recollect the amount from the principal debtor, and this right is known as the right to claim indemnity. Why? Because the guarantor has having the right to he recovered the amount from the principal debtor, so he has not to face the loss. Right to know the extent of the liability if the guarantee is in the form of the continuing guarantee for a particular amount period. So after some of the time, if the guarantor wants to know that for what amount he is liable, so it is the right of the guarantor to ask the banker that for what amount he is liable, and the banker has to disclose the information that for what amount he is liable, and the banker cannot hide the information about the liability of the guarantor. Why? Because the guarantor is having the interest in that, but with the same time the banker has to maintain the secrecy of customers account. Also, banker do not disclose all the information of customers account. Banker has to disclose only those information which are in interest of the guarantor. So of course, yes, the guarantor is interested to know the amount of the liability, and banker has to disclose this information to the guarantor whenever it is asked by the guarantor. The next is the right against the co-sureties if there are more than one sureties for a single date. Clear? So here all the co-sureties are you can say responsible for an equal part of the loan. Suppose there are two guarantors for a same loan, and the amount which is due it is 2000 rupees. So both of the guarantors are responsible for 1000. Here, so not a single guarantor has to pay 2000 rupees. They have to pay equally 1000 and 1000. So this is the rights against the co-sureties. Then the next topic is about the discharge of surety or end of the guarantee. As this topic is also very much IMP from the examination point of view. That first one, these all are the, you can say these all are the conditions when the guarantee comes to an end automatically. Clear? That all the condition is known as the end of the guarantee. Clear? There is no need of the legal notice required here. If this types of situation happen, then the guarantee comes to an end automatically. The first condition is that the death of the surety. If the surety die, if the guarantor dies, in that situation the guarantee comes to an end automatically. The second situation is about the discharge on variation in terms. If any terms and condition of the contract between the principal debtor and the banker vary without the consent of the guarantor, without the permission of the guarantor, so in that situation the guarantee comes to an end automatically. The third is that discharge by a release of the principal debtor. If because of any reason, if principal debtor discharged from the liability of paying the loan amount with interest, so the guarantor, who is the secondary debtor, is released from the liability automatically. Why? Because he is the person on behalf of the principal debtor. If principal debtor released from the liability, then the secondary debtor, who is the guarantor, is automatically released from the liability. The next one is about the discharge by compositions. If the bank is amalgamated or merged with any other banks, the constitution of the bank is changed. So the guarantee which is given to a particular bank is, you can say, it will be discharged by the composition, and you can say it is come to the end automatically. Suppose the guarantee is given to the XYZ, and the XYZ is going to amalgamated with ABC Bank. So this liability given to the promise given to the XYZ come to the end and automatically. Why? Because this first bank is going to amalgamated with the second bank. The next is about discharge by the creditors act or omission. If creditor means here banker. If banker done something which is not in the interest of the guarantor or which can harm the interest of the guarantor, or omission means suppose the banker performs to bankers forgot to perform any duty which he has to do. So in that situation, the guarantee comes to an end automatically. Suppose for an example, the guarantor want to ask that for what amount he is liable, and actually he is liable for 10 lakh rupees, but wrongly the wrong information given by a banker to the guarantor that he is liable for 7 lakh rupees. So in that situation, the guarantor is liable only for 7 lakh rupees, and the why? Because this wrong information is given by banker to the guarantor. So this is you can say it is the act of omission, or it is act of the carelessness. Here the guarantor is not liable for 10 lakh rupees. Why? Because the wrong information is given by banker to the guarantor. So for the remaining 3 lakh rupees, the liability, the promise which is given by the guarantor is come to an end automatically. The next is the loss of securities. If any part of the security or the security lost by the banker which is given to him as a course of security with the guarantee, so in that situation the guarantor is not liable for the loss amount or the part of the security which is lost by the banker. The guarantor is responsible only and only for the guarantee given by him. So for the part of the loss that made by the banker by losing the security or any part of the security, yes, security means the physical asset, the tangible asset. Suppose the gold is given by you as a security to the banker, and out of the jewelry, some of the jewelry is lost by the banker. So here the guarantor is not liable for that amount which is lost by the banker. The guarantor is not at all responsible. Why? Because according to the rule, for those amounts, the guarantee comes to an end automatically. The next topic is the rights of the creditors against the surety. The first right is that he can demand the payment from the sureties in case of default. If the principal debtor is not able to pay the amount, then the banker can ask the amount from the surety from the guarantor. Then second, he can exercise the right of the general lion on the property of the principal debtor also and on the property of guarantor also. I hope you know the meaning of general lion. The next is the right to recover the dues from the estate of the insolvent surety. If the guarantor become insolvent, then the banker is having the right to recover the dues out of the estates of the insolvent sureties also. Then if there are more than one sureties for the same date, clear or in that situation, if any defaults occur, or if the principal debtor is not able to pay the amount, so there is no need to take the procedure against all of the surety. The banker can take the liberty to proceed against any one of the surety out of them, and that surety has to recover the amount from the other sureties. But banker is going to do the procedure against any single surety. So this type of liberty can be taken by the banker in case of co-sureties or in case of more than one person is the guarantor. The next topic is about the advantages of the guarantee. So that what are the advantages of the guarantee? The first advantage is it is very easier security as compared to the mortgage of the property, and it is very easy to obtain. Why? Because just the signature of the guarantor is required on the form and the security is obtained. No need to find the market value and all. The second one is about the formalities connected with taking the securities are simple. Why formalities are simple? As I said that the just standard form is there for the guarantee and the signature of the guarantor is required on the standard form. So the formalities are very simple. The signature can be easily obtained from the guarantor on the form by the bank. There is no need of preparing it here. If you have prepared the guarantee form, then it is itself working as a deal. It is itself working as a contract. There is no need of separate contract for the guarantee. That guarantee form is works as a contract of guarantee. Then the next is the banker may call the guarantor and tell him about the default of the data. In case of default of the data, what the banker has to do, the banker has to call the guarantor and tell him about this default, and the banker can ask for the payment. Now the question arises that how to call. So that call must be with the help of the legal paper. So here just the banker has to file a case in court, or you can say by a simple court action the guarantee can be enforced. The next is in case of default, a banker and the guarantor both are going to pressurize the borrower to repay the amount. Why? Because as we just discussed in the principle of subrogation, that after paying the amount of the loan from the guarantor to the banker, now the guarantor becomes the creditor of the borrower. So banker is also going to pressurize the borrower, of course, yes, and after paying the amount, guarantor is also going to pressurize the borrower to repay the loan amount. So in both of them are going to pressurize the borrower. So of course the chances of recovery will increase. And the value of the security is fixed. It is not going to affect with the market condition. Why? Because it is not the tangible security. It is the promise given by the person, and it is not going to affect with the market conditions. The next is the banker is not burdened with the positive obligations such like the storage and the maintenance. Why? Because the same reason is that it is not a physical or it is not a tangible securities. It is the promise given by the person. So there is no need to do such the kind of burden like storage and maintenance cost of the which is generally in case of the tangible securities. But this types of cost or this types of burden is not there in case of guarantee. So these all are the advantages of guarantee. The next topic is about the disadvantages of guarantee. That what are the disadvantages of guarantee? The first disadvantage is about the if the guarantor's property is destroyed or sold during the period of the contract, then and the borrower also become the defaultee. So it is very difficult to recover the amount from both of them. As we discussed that the banker can recover the amount out of the property of guarantor also. But suppose the property is destroyed during the contract period, or it is intentionally sold by the guarantor to someone else during the contract of period, and with the same time the principal later also become defaultee. So now it is almost impossible to recover the amount from both of them. The next is sometimes if the banker changes the constitutions, then the guarantee is terminated. As we just discussed on the topic that end of guarantee, it means yeah, here one point is there changes in constitution. If the constitution is changed, suppose the bank is going to amalgamate it with any other bank is going to start any new branch, or the diversification is done. So in that situation, the constitution is changed. Clear? So here the guarantee comes to an end automatically. Why? Because some of the constitution is changed without the consent of the guarantor. Sometimes the loan is not returned on and the bank claim in the court against the guarantor. So sometimes it happens that the court is going to reject the case on the basis of some of the technical grounds. So this technical reason may also the disadvantages. Then next is if the bank is going to amalgamate it with any other bank, then the guarantees come to an end. This is something similar to the second point, that constitution is going to change in case of amalgamation or in case of merger. So this type of activity is done by the banker. Then in that case, the guarantee is terminated automatically. The next disadvantage is about the value of the security, which is depend on the financial solvency of the guarantor. So here, if the guarantor become insolvent, then the value of the security will be become zero. So this is the main disadvantages of the guarantee. This types of disadvantages is not happen in case of tangible securities or in case of physical security. Then next disadvantage is about the liability of the guarantor must be carefully defined. Why? Because he may escape from the liability on the basis of some of the several clauses, or you can say some of the technical grounds. As I have given you the example of that, if the wrong information is passed by banker that he is responsible for only 7 lakh, not for the 10 lakhs, then but what is the actual liability? Actual liability is 10 lakh, but the wrong information is passed by the banker that he is liable for 7 lakh. So on the basis of this technical ground, the guarantor may escape from the liability of 3 lakh rupees. So the liability must be very carefully defined. Otherwise, the guarantor may got the chance to escape from the liability. These all are the disadvantages. And the last point for the chapter is about the precaution that the banker has to be observed at the time of taking guarantee. So the first precaution is that he must ascertain the solvency and integrity of the guarantor. So the solvency must be calculated or ascertained from the you can say assets which are registered with the name of the banker. With the name of the guarantor. And the integrity means the past record. The banker has to check that any past loan is paid in time or not, with interest or not, how many defaults are there, and if there is any legal case which is registered with the name of the guarantor. These all things banker has to check the integrity. Integrity means the person must be a honest person, and solvency means enough financial assets must the person have it. The next is about the capacity of the contract. We have to check the capacity. The banker has to check the regular source of income. If the business is good of the guarantor, then there is a regular source of income, and the capacity is the person is in the capacity to enter into the contract of guarantee. So the here capacity can be measured with the profit or the source of income. Then the next is about the banker do not approach a guarantor. Why? Because this is not the duty of a banker. The principal debtor has to approach a guarantor, not the banker. Then the types of the guarantee, as we discussed in the two types of the guarantee. First one is the specific guarantee, and second one is the continuing guarantee. And the continuing guarantee is most preferable from the banker's point of view. So the banker must ask for the continuing guarantee in spite of the specific guarantee. Then next is the execution of the contract of guarantee. If any default occurs, so to claim against the guarantor, it is a necessary requirement that the banker must be having any proof. So the contract of guarantee means here the banker has the ask to the guarantor to sign on the guarantee form. Why? Because this guarantee form is going to work as a contract. In case of default, the banker must be having a written proof of the guarantee. Guarantee should not be taken on oral basis. Then the explanation of the clause in the form. There are so many clauses which are written on the form. Form means your guarantee form. So if any clause is asked by the guarantor to explain, then the banker must be ready to explain this clause according to the rules and regulations. and there is no duty to inform voluntarily. Why? Because as we discussed that it is the duty of the banker to explain all the clauses which are written on the form, but not the voluntarily. The banker, this is the duty of the banker to explain these clauses only and only when it is asked by the guarantor to explain. Otherwise, not clear. There is no duty to explain voluntarily about any rules and regulations. Then, in case of joint and several liability, it is requirement that the signature of all the guarantor, the signature of all the surety must be taken on the guarantee form. And in case of default, the person, the guarantor, the banker can take the liberty to do the procedure against any single in any single guarantor. Not it is not necessary that the banker has to do the procedure against all of the guarantors. Then periodical confirmation, if the continuing guarantee is there for a longer period of time, so of course after a particular time period the confirmation is required to be taken by the banker from the guarantor that they want to continue with the guarantee. This period is defined by the banker according to the convenience and according to the risk factor which is attached with the loan. So according to the convenience of the banker, the period must be decided by him, and after that particular period, the confirmation must be taken by him. And again, the same thing that the confirmation must be written on paper. It is not oral confirmation. Clear? Periodical confirmation must be taken with the signature of the guarantor on particular form. In case of death, lunacy, and the insolvency of the principal debtor, what the banker has to do? Banker has to close the account of the principal debtor, and the banker has to ask the guarantor to pay the amount. And suppose if the guarantor dies, or if the guarantor becomes the lunatic or insolvent person, in that situation, the what the banker has to do? The banker has to remove, or the banker has to you can say the avoid the further lending to the principal debtor, and the banker has to try maximum to recover the past loan and avoid the granting the future loan. The banker has to try to recover the loan from the principal debtor, and if not, then out of the property of the guarantor. So these all they are the precautions that the banker has to keep in mind at the time of taking guarantee. So this is the end of the unit that we revised in today's lecture. From the next lecture, we are going to start with the new unit. To try to make this unit very clear, so I have made this revision lecture for you. If you have listened my old lectures, so you will be understood the topics very clearly. Now start learning, as you know that the one unit is over, so this is the best time to start learning. Now we are going to meet in the next lecture. Till then, stay home, stay safe, have a good day.